Part of me is like, it does seem like a little bit crazy to like introduce this world, explain like the horrors happening there, and then like do nothing about it. Like do nothing about it and just leave. Like all of our main characters just left and they know that there's a bunch of people in camps. And also part of me is like, maybe that was intentional because it's driving at the point we were just talking about, which is like people do that. Like people realize horrors are happening all the time and then just like move on. Nazis won World War II. These people inherited this world. The current people that we're seeing didn't create it, just like the dad was saying, they inherited it.
Yeah. I think what was striking to me was Peacemaker's dad and his brother, and obviously Peacemaker, were trying to reap the benefits of a white supremacist society without trying to hold on to the label. He seemed more offended at the fact that Vigilante called him a Nazi, but Vigilante is calling you a Nazi because like you are upholding the values of what Nazi Germany has. You are trying to round up people of color, keep them like you're not trying to liberate them. You're the Sons of Liberty, you're treating them like a terrorist group. In what ways are you actually using this sort of like, whatever power I have, I do what I can? But what does that look like? You know what I mean?
Well, I guess to that I would say, can't you say the same thing about us? I think that's what it's not that he's right. It's that maybe we are just as wrong. Because it's like, you know, we're seeing atrocious things happen. And like the vast majority of us are like going about our regular day-to-day lives. Crazy Stupid Podcast.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time watching, we'd love it if you could hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell so that you are aware of when we post things.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Crazy Stupid Podcast. My name is Esther.
And I'm Adrian.
Today, we're here to talk about Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 7.
Yes.
So,
one more to go.
The penultimate episode of Season 2. Quite eventful.
Yes.
A lot going on.
Dude, especially those last like 15 minutes. My God, I was kind of like,
It was a lot. I was with Chris. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, y'all are kind of bugging.
This is his family. First of all, I just have to say that was sorry. The moment with the Hitler mural was really funny to me.
I literally in my notes, how did you not notice Hitler? What? What are we talking about?
Like that is.
Dude,
that is
even with
crazy.
the Mein Kampf, Peacemaker doesn't strike me as someone that reads books. A picture of Hitler though is wild, bro.
Yeah, like
that's just unexcusable. I'll excuse the books, the painting though. Maybe even the flags, like maybe because that's just you probably wouldn't notice.
The first thing that I kind of had was when Vigilante was talking to the other Vigilante, like catching him up on everything, and the other Vigilante was like, everything in this world comes at the expense of like essentially like the most marginalized people.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I was like, LOL, same here.
Boy, do I have a story to tell you.
when Adrian was like, no, in our world, America won the war. Like the Nazis lost. And he was like, wow, your place must be a utopia. And Adrian was like, well,
no.
It's like Anabaya was saying, it's like, you'd think that there would be a huge drastic difference between this world and ours. And while, yes, locking up all of the people of color and in what I would assume are some type of internment camps, is big. That's big.
The thing is though, like the town that Peacemaker was in, you could find towns.
You can find towns like that in America. Yeah. Exactly. They
exist. Not that far off.
and down to the chasing out the black folks.
Yes.
That's real.
And I will tell you, dude, because we had family living in the South, and we would drive down like from New York to Georgia or South Carolina. They would literally call us like halfway there, like, oh, it's been 6 hours. Let me let them know. All right, sun setting. Don't drive through those towns. And I remember as a kid, like,
yeah, it's not a joke.
This is gonna feel like so far off. Remember when the creators of Game of Thrones wanted to do like an alternate reality, like if the Civil War?
Yeah.
I would not have trusted them to handle this the same way and respect that James Gunn did. The reason why I say that is just hearing more from Game of Thrones fans. I read the books, but there's people that were like, you know, they this is their fandom. There are a lot of themes that Dan and David just did not fully grasp well. I'll give you an example. Something that I always thought that I was like, oh, this is such like a good Arya moment. Remember like in season 2, 3, where she's like living with Tywin Lannister, but like they don't know that it's Arya Stark and like she's like his ward. There's this moment that she has with Tywin and they're like reminiscing on like important female historical figures in their world, like different Targaryens and whatnot. And then he makes this line of like, you know, aren't most girls more interested in dolls and ball grounds and dresses? And Arya says, most girls are idiots. A lot of fans are making the point that like that is actually in complete contradiction to how George R. R. Martin wrote a character like Arya. Through that is still some level of like misogyny that they feel like they're sort of portraying through her character. But Arya's character is very uplifting to like all women. You know what I mean? Like she reveres historical ones. And so for her to use that, but then look down at current women conflicts with what George was trying to get across with that character, right? And other things that you start to notice, like there's a lot of SA scenes that just like, it wasn't there. You know what I mean?
No, that was weird. They had to get, and they realized they had to get it under control.
Yeah,
at a certain point,
it was out of control.
I think at the end of the day, the point always has to be how close to that our current reality is.
Yeah.
The fact that you can see the parallels and see the themes has to be part of the point of like, hey, we actually did not eradicate this belief system. I do want to talk a little bit about the monologue that Chris's dad was making. At first, I was kind of conflicted with like what we were trying to say and where we were trying to go with it, because it was like he was excusing himself. You know, like he has that thing, he says a thing of like, you know, I applaud you if like your world is completely perfect, or if you are a person who is able to, you know, fight against every single injustice you see, but like basically saying like, I do what I can. And at first I was kind of like, okay, but you know, living in a Nazi universe, it just seems like, but then I had to think about it, and I was like, Nazis won World War II. These people inherited this world. The current people that we're seeing didn't create it, just like the dad was saying, they inherited it. Yeah. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, yes, they inherited their oppressive racial structure in the same way that we inherited ours. You know, just like they live in the aftermath of Nazis winning World War II, what do we live in the aftermath of? Okay, well, we live in the aftermath of the Reconstruction era being violently succeeded by the Jim Crow era. Yeah. Or the fact that like freed slaves did not receive their 40 acres and a mule, but slave masters got reparations, and all of what that entails and the realities that we all live with because of that. And I started thinking, I was like, what if there was an alternate universe where that didn't happen? Where the Reconstruction era was able to continue on and thrive, because there was a lot of amazing things happening like just a few years after slavery ended. Yeah. What if the Jim Crow era didn't happen in that alternate universe? And then they came and looked at our world and looked at what was happening here, and then looked at how we react to it, and like, what would it look like to them? Like, would it look like we are crazily inactive? Would it look like we're not, you know, up in arms enough about these injustices? Because I feel like, because when you inherit something and you're born into a world where it just already is, it doesn't shock you into action in the way that it would a person who is seeing it for the first time and knows what it could look like elsewhere.
I think what was striking to me was, in a world where Nazi Germany won, why can't you be more like Vigilante? Your initial feeling is where I maybe am currently still at. It's not like he is trying to make like incremental change to a system that he does not agree with. He's living rather comfortably. Mm-hmm. They live in a big ass mansion. Him, Peacemaker, his brother, they're all living in that extravagant life. They've got trophies, they've got awards. And I feel like Peacemaker's dad and his brother, and obviously Peacemaker, were trying to reap the benefits of a white supremacist society without trying to hold on to the label. Like he seemed more offended at the fact that Vigilante called him a Nazi, But Vigilante is calling you a Nazi because like you are upholding the values of what Nazi Germany has. You are trying to round up people of color, keep them like you're not trying to liberate them. You're the Sons of Liberty. You're treating them like a terrorist group. In what ways are you actually using this sort of like whatever power I have, I do what I can? But what does that look like? You know what I mean?
Well, I guess to that I would say, can't you say the same thing about us? I think that's what it's not that he's right. It's that maybe we are just as wrong. Because it's like, we're seeing atrocious things happen. And like the vast majority of us are like going about our regular day-to-day lives. I don't know. It felt like a little bit of like a call out. Like, hey, you're trying to point fingers at this character because to you, their situation looks much more extreme.
Yeah.
And so you're like, how could you not do something, in this, whatever. But it's like, it looks extreme to you because it's new to you. But our current reality is pretty extreme too. It just doesn't feel that way to us because we were born into a world where it existed.
I guess the other thing that I would say is their reaction to what they're seeing in this universe is based off of how they were accurately presented on the horrors of Nazi Germany and what happened to Jewish people, right? Mm-hmm. Those feelings are stemming from years and years of countries around the world teaching them this is a horrific thing. But we are not taught about what is happening to immigrants, undocumented or not, in the same sort of righteous indignation. It's not the same way. So if some other universe like the one where you're describing, where we had a true racial reckoning for people of color and they visited us, they would probably call us Nazis of some degree. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's probably where I guess I'm landing as the conversation continues.
Many things can be normalized if they continue on long enough.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I had a couple of comments. First, that I thought that this was interesting because we sort of had a conversation of like, why was Adebayo so comfortable walking in that neighborhood? Somebody says Adebayo walking through that suburban neighborhood without a worry was probably the most unrealistic part of the episode. But then I remembered she is Amanda Waller's daughter and probably grew up in an affluent, predominantly white environment. So she probably felt relatively comfortable in that space. I thought that was interesting because I actually didn't even think about that. Like if this looks like your neighborhood, maybe things wouldn't be that jarring. You're probably used to being the only black person and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe. Other comment that I had was how Chris reacted to the question from Hardcore was how many white viewers reacted to the theories from fans. I'm hoping those who didn't notice what Chris missed or argued would use as a moment of reflection. I think you have more hope in white people than we do. Y'all got more hope in a lot of white people than we do. People will watch. I promise you, there's going to be some person that watches these last few episodes of Peacemaker and still be like, bro, you're overthinking it. This has literally nothing to do with race. I would not put it past him.
I could see people coming away with the conclusion of like, he did this for like, shock value. It's like a fascinating plot, a racist, whatever. But like, we don't have to like, linger on it. It's not supposed to be, thought about that deeply. I do think one thing that he did that might aid in that is that we wrapped up that arc pretty fast. We realized they were not a Nazi dimension last week at the very end. This week we left. So it's like we didn't.
Why do you think it was right? I feel like this will not be the last time we see.
I think we are going to see his brother again.
Maybe not that universe.
I don't think we're going back there. And I feel like, I don't know if it's necessarily a flaw. Like it might have been intentional, like just to, I'm kind of going back and forth on this because part of me is like, it does seem like a little bit crazy to like introduce this world, explain like the horrors happening there and then like do nothing about it. Do nothing about it and just leave. Like all of our main characters just left and they know that there's a bunch of people living in camps, And also part of me is like, maybe that was intentional because it's driving at the point we were just talking about, which is like people do that. Like people realize horrors are happening all the time and then just like move on.
Rather quickly as well.
Right. But I think that if you are watching the show in the way that some fans have been trying not to confront the questions that are being asked, then us not staying in that place and like wrestling with what they introduced last week can help you do that, because you can just
out a little bit.
Yeah, you can just move on now.
Yeah,
because and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll go back. But it just doesn't seem like that's where it's going.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Those are our thoughts. This season's been fun. We'd love to hear what you guys thought about this episode. Let us know in the comment sections below. And with that, we will see you all next time. Take care, everyone. Peace.